Before we move on to exercises that use a sample database, I need to get the files that will allow me to create that sample database. So in my eCampus page, I'm going to click on Assignments. This is the first assignment actually on week 2. And then I'm going to be looking into the create.txt and the populate.txt files. These are actually my query, or rather my SQL queries that will create the database for us. And this is all going to be happening in my SQL workbench. I'm going to load this from my Windows menu, launch it. Here's my SQL workbench. I'm going to click on my existing MySQL connection. Type in my password, which we created the last time, and I have a blank slate to work with. So this query 1 space is where I will be pasting in the text from the files that I'm talking about. But first I need to set up something to paste it into. I need a database. I'm going to click on the 4th icon from the left, create a new schema in the connected server. This icon is universally known as the database icon. Looks like a little barrel. Click on that. And I'm going to call this my_database. You can call it anything you want. I'm just keeping it simple. Click apply. And then I'll click apply again and finish. I can now close this my database schema. And if I click on the drill bit here, next to my database, I can see that I have tables, views, etc. already ready to be programmed. If I were to right click on my database, I could ask to see what the schema is all about in the schema inspector, and I see that it can accept tables, columns, indexes, etc. I'll close that tab, and now I'll start to work on the creation. You'll see that in the output section we have details of what's going on. I'm going to go back to my eCampus page and I'll click on create.txt. Here is a script that if I click on the browser window and press Ctrl A to select all, I can right click and copy all that text. Once it's copied, I can close it, go back to my SQL workbench and right click on this empty space and tell it to paste. So all of that script has now been loaded onto this query, and I'll click on the lightning rod icon, execute the selected portion, click on that, and it tells me, well, you don't go so fast there because there's no database selected. Although I created this database, it has not been selected as a default. So I need to click on it and then right click on it and set it as the default schema. Now it's bold. My database tells me that it's the default schema. If I were to go into the inspector, I still get pretty much the same information. Still waiting to be loaded. I'll close that tab again, and I will now try to click on the lightning rod again, and now my script is running. It's telling me all things are getting affected and records are being written, so things are good. How about me going back to my database, asking to see the schema inspector, and now I see that things have been created. My tables are there, customers table, order items, etc. There's columns that have been created, indices, triggers, etc. I'll close that tab again. All of these things will become important as we work our way through the course. For now, just know that all of these things are now ready for you, except that there's no information in this schema. I'll click somewhere in the query 1 and press Ctrl A to select all again, and I'm going to press the backspace key to delete because I need to go back into my eCampus, click on populate.txt. And these, you'll notice here are customers, vendors, orders, etc. that we can populate into the database. I'll press Ctrl A to select all, right click to copy. Close this tab if you don't need it. Go back to my SQL workbench And now that our query 1 is clear, I can right click and paste. And here's all of that script ready to run. And I'll click on the lightning rod once more. And it's telling me that all kinds of things were affected. So what that means, or at least that tells me, is that if I go back to my database and right click and see the schema inspector, the columns are still there, but now there's all kinds of information in there. All the indices, all the functions, etc. are going to have additional information that was not there before, and so that when we start to work on our projects, all the information will be readily available for us. Everything that's in the yellow book in the MySQL Learn MySQL in 10 minutes is going to be found in these files. If you have any questions about setting up the database, please email me or let me know any way you can so that we can move forward with the course.